Church of HAUNT, Beastmaker, Hysteria, and yeah, 1,000 other bands.
Basically, at this point, I didn't realize that was going to be part of my resume one day, but it just kind of happened, you know, not in a bad way. Just I think COVID-19 kind of made things a little bit more possible than what I was able to do before, because I would have to rehearse with the live band a couple times a week and then playing shows and stuff. So since that's kind of gone, it's allowed more free time for more creativity, which is kind of a bad thing because I kind of prefer the creative side a lot of the times, as I'm sure a lot of people maybe started to realize with how, frequent my releases are and things. It's really hard for me not to be in the creative mode. I love the live mode and the frenzy and of being on the road and everything, but for instance, I know you've talked with Steven. I watched your interview with Steven the other day, and I was like, ah, that's a good one. And so with Oath, all I heard was a little sample. And I've known Steven for a while. We go back a little bit. We've been friendly on the web, and I've met him in England a couple times now, and he's become a friend. And I heard the lick. It was on the song "Confess," which he had a ridiculous title for it before I made him change it. As you know, I produced it, so I was like, nope, 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 throwing all kinds of just throwing shit out. I was like, this has to go. I'm like no whole bar when it comes to like shit like that. I told him, I said, hey, if I have to drum on this and mix it here and master it here without you being here recording it with me, there's going to be some things probably that I'm going to be evaluating more critically in listening. So we would record what I would have you do here, if you're with me. It's like, uh, sometimes, maybe you thought you nailed the vocal, but you didn't. It's not that the pitch was wrong or anything, but sometimes the delivery of the words, so that there's more punctuation to it. Because one of the big things I found early on in my career is trying to sing, when you're singing, to actually sound like you're singing instead of just having a melody that kind of just it goes in there. It's like, for me, it's kind of important to be able to understand and enunciate the words correctly. So, it was a lot of fun to dive into that and analyze what he was doing, and also give the whole project new perspective, because he was using electronic drums, or program drums. I'm sorry, not electronic, but program drums on his previous releases, which is totally acceptable, because when you're a one-man operation, you could only do so much. Not everybody has, you can see my studio here. I got my drums are just they're just set up. The mics are all set up 24 hours a day. They don't go down. This drum set stays
I
right
love
there.
that. I love that
Oh,
drum setup.
oh, here's a drum setup.
Yeah, I saw one of
Let
your
you see
videos
it.
where you showed that you put a microphone from under from the floor into the drum kit. That
Yeah,
was
I don't
pretty
do that
quick.
anymore. I got some new microphones, so it's always evolving. But that was something I tried, and I actually just noticed that. I know that my friends in Municipal Waste are recording a new record, and they did like this little video thing for Decibel Magazine, and I noticed that he was doing that. And I think they call it like concert style, where the bottom heads are removed and you mic it from underneath. Um, it's funny that this all changed when I was in Europe, on that tour where I met you, and I was at a gig, and they're clipping these Bayer Dynamic mics onto the toms, and I was like, what are those? I'd never seen them before. I've seen a lot of clip-on mics. I've seen a lot of mics in my years. And they're like, these are drum condenser mics specifically for the toms. And as soon as I got home, I was like, a condenser mic on the tom, that has to sound really good. And Beyerdynamic is a great German company. I use a lot of Beyerdynamic stuff. Even to their headphones, I do my mixing and mastering with, I got 2 different sets of Beyerdynamics. So there's a lot of German stuff here. I think German microphones are really great, and I use a lot of them. I also have some microphones from Austria as well, which is a German neighbor, you know, as well as many other microphones. But so recently I've been using a new mic, you know, using these tom condenser mics on everything, and they've been going a little bit better. I still think I'm still kind of battling the self-taught engineer producer realm, and also doing it in a room that, you know, it's basically a converted garage. Like, I don't have a garage door or anything like that. I'll turn it. It's really bright. Coming from that light is 2 French glass doors that is just blistering light in my room right now. But yeah, so that's my studio is one very large room, and I'm like sitting at my console right now where I have all I have my automated faders, console that I can control, input output. I have tons of preamps, condensers, compressors, and just tools to get the job done. But you always have to remember, when you're going into a DIY area and also you don't know what you're doing, you're going to have there's going to be a lot of learning curves along the years, and also just trying to figure out what it is that you like personally, because I don't technically want to sound like everybody else. You feel me? You know, you kind of could find your own thing. Maybe it's not as great as everybody else's, but you like it. That's really what matters, is if you're okay with the result. If it's suitable, then you've hit it. But yeah, I don't do the underneath miking right now. I put my bottom heads back on, and I've been recording that way for a little bit. Do I like it better? I don't even know yet, because it's so hard to. I'm not exactly like, I don't record a ton of bands. I do a few bands, and generally I have to have something to do with them, because for me to invest my time into bands, it's really complicated, because, you know, I put a lot of stuff on my shoulders, because I didn't want to be the middleman anymore. I feel like the artist kind of has become the middleman in a music business, where the middleman is basically like the lowest employee on the totem pole. I think the employees at the record labels probably make more than the bands themselves a lot of the times, because it's very complicated. I've seen record deals that I'm kind of like a life coach for smaller bands, and people have sent me their record contracts that they've gotten. I'm not going to say what labels or anything, but independent heavy metal labels, and the kind of money that they're throwing at bands isn't even enough to cover the album. Like, I could never, like, for instance, Saber, they had gotten a contract from an anonymous, I'm not going to say, when I was starting to work with Saber, which is, you know, when it'll be out soon. I think I sent it to you, didn't I not?
Yeah, but I don't know when I can write and release the review.
Yeah, so you could release it. You could actually probably release it in the next couple weeks. So you're good to go. But anyway, when I was getting down to that, I was looking at this contract, and I was telling him, I'm like, look, you could go ahead and do this, but, you know, I was like, I can't record your album for that. You know, I was like, you could do the record with me, and we'll put it out independently, right? But and then there won't be that, like, I don't know. You can't record an album for $1,500. I'm sorry. It's impossible to do a production that's going to be of any quality that cheap, especially from bands that don't have the ability to do a pre-production. And I did pre-production for them as well. So they had recorded some it was so bad. It was so badly recorded. It was so hard for me to get through. It was the hardest part, was listening to what they had done and then trying to drum on it here alone. You know what I mean? I was like, man, this is fucking brutal. They don't have good vocal mics. I think they're recording the vocals like on a phone or something. I don't know. It was just really gnarly. It was a really, really crazy experience. Nowhere near as easy as it was with Oath. Oath was like, boom, 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 done. It took me like 2 weeks. It was not a big deal. Saber was more like a month and a half long experience. And again, COVID is partially the reason I was able to even be so heavily involved right now. And I was able to drum for them. It's really hard to find drummers now. I mean, it's become a thing where like most drummers are in 2 to 3, 4 fucking bands because there's just such a lack. So I took it upon myself years ago to really try to start taking drums as a serious instrument. Probably about 8 years ago, I really started like, was like, you know, as a songwriter, I was like, yeah, programming drums is fine and all, but I feel like when you're actually playing it, some things happen, just how as a riff happens. You know, maybe it's like a generic riff, but all of a sudden you find this little like doo-doo-doo-doo or something that goes in there that you wouldn't have found out if it was just like computer generated, right? With Oath, I feel like that was a big thing that was setting him back. He had shitty drums and shitty production because he didn't really have the technology of having some analog warmth added to it. Digital's really dark and boxy, and I have some gear back here. I have a stereo processor that kind of glues everything together, and it just kind of, it's like that final little piece of the puzzle. It's like glossing a painting, you know, it's putting the varnish on a painting. It just is like, all right, it's done. You can just tweak these 2 knobs that I have, and it really brings color to cheap recording. And as you know, with talking with Steven, you know, I think the gear he has, I think he spent a little bit over 300 pounds, which is probably something like, I don't know, $400 US, maybe a little less. I don't know. But that's a very, very that's a shoestring budget. And so we were able to do a really good recording, I feel, as far as what all the things that we were lacking. And as far as not being in a room together, only being able to communicate like we are right now. You know, I'd FaceTime him and be like, hey, I don't mean to be a dick, but that solo was garbage and it has to go. And that's the kind of shit you hear from me, you know, like it's always going to be constructive criticism. I'm not a critic in the sense of where I'm going to bash something without any sort of constructive thought to it, to be like, hey, maybe it needs to be a little bit more like this. This will help it, you know? And even though there was things I did let some things slide from him, and I did end up having to do all the backup vocals for Oath. But I think Steven is a really strong talent, strong songwriter. I think Computer Warrior came out really, really good. I was really happy to be able to do that for him. It's something I don't have a lot to give back because of how much time I'm invested in my own stuff. So to be able to give back to the music community a little bit and help the people that really could, you know, take their music to that next level, why not? You know, a lot of people don't have that ability, especially in America where, you know, it's so much more widespread. Like you know, I'm like 4 hours from LA. There's not like really a city close by enough to where I could find a drummer that lives an hour away and a commute could happen that's easily doable. Like for instance, in Germany, I know you guys use the train a lot where it's like really inexpensive. You can take the train to where you need to go, get off it, even get on a bus that you don't have, everything's pretty like I've always found it really easy to travel through Europe because of the trains. You don't have trains. You have to get in a car and drive and then possibly get stuck in traffic. And we all know driving is an expensive thing. So musicians, it's really hard to find them here in a band like Saber in LA. You think you could find a drummer in LA, but LA is full of pretentious, snobby musicians that think their shit does not stink. And those are people I can't handle. I can't handle the holier than thou, my shit doesn't stink attitude. I don't fucking like it. I think I just posted something about it the other day. Like my first big show that I ever played, the band that played after us, they were complete assholes to me. They were dicks. I went up to them and introduced myself, and they're like, roo, roo. And you know me, I'm like, I will fucking talk your ear off. I will find something to talk to them about. I even smoked a joint with them, and they didn't even thank me for smoking the joint with them. I was like, fuck this, man. And they were called Harsh Toke. I thought they would appreciate getting lit, And so anyway, it's a lot harder. It really is. And we're in a time where younger people aren't really gravitating to acoustic instruments. It's way easier to do it on the computer, and that's fine. I'm not going to knock that stuff because it wins Grammys. It does all kinds of stuff. We can't sit here and belittle anything because we aren't above anything at all. If you think you're above something, you've already failed. We aren't above anything. We aren't. The whole idea of music is to create some sort of experience in art and something that's pleasurable to somebody that brings some sort of feeling. And you could do that in so many ways. It doesn't have to be always the traditional way of having everything mic'd up in a room and recorded acoustically. It just doesn't need that anymore. It's not necessary, but it does bring something to it when somebody has played on it. And that's where I think Oath was really lacking. And then Saber, if you go to Saber's Bandcamp and you listen to the original Speed Racer, it was programmed drums that I programmed for them. I didn't know them at the time. They wanted to come to the studio, record something. They had no drummer. And I wasn't ready to be like, yeah, I'll drum on it. This wasn't there yet, and you could hear the difference of life that I brought to the recordings by just simply playing the drums. And I changed the drums significantly. They wanted all this double speed metal drumming. I was like, nope, I'm doing old school punk rock, old school metal drums on this. And that's what you guys are getting. And they were fine with that. They really bent to what I wanted, which is something that you kind of have to do if you're going to work with me. I'm not going to be so loose and be like, I didn't want to have to sit there and try to do double bass perfection of that to the caliber that I would want that double bass. I'm like real sporadic with it. Like my double bass, I can only do it for so long before I start getting real sloppy because it's not really my style. I use it, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I only like it so much. I'm going to like this and let you ask me a question if you want.
Yeah, of course. I had to research a lot because I started to write for Metal Rules, and I thought those guys are around since 1995. One of the
Hey, can you
oldest.
hold on a second? My gardener is here, and I want him to move away for a little bit. It's too loud.
Sure.
Can you hear me? Are you almost done here? Are you almost done right here? Because I'm doing an interview right now. I can't hear it. I can't hear what I'm doing. I'm doing an interview right now. An interview. I can't hear it. This is too loud. Okay, thanks. Sorry, man. I have a gardener. He's blowing shit right now. It's so fucking loud. I can't hear what you're saying to me. So go
I
ahead
start
now.
again. I said I had to research a bit to write my first articles for Metal Rules because I
Nice.
thought,
Congratulations.
yeah, I thought, okay, those guys are around since 1995 and
Yeah.
are one of the oldest metal pages around. And so I thought, okay, I better write something good. And
Yeah.
wrote the review for Triumph
Oh, thank you.
and another review for Flashback. My thanks.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate the support. I'm a big. I try. It always goes always, and that's another reason I wanted to get this interview with you because we've had this rapport going together, and it's just like important that we both harness each other's what we're doing, what we're trying to do. You know what I mean? It's journalism in music is super important because it gives perspective and that some people still use reviews to figure out what they're going to listen to. It helps.
Yeah, okay. I have to admit, I'm advertising like a motherfucker.
You are. I've been seeing it, and I like that work ethic of just like, all right, this is what I want to do and I'm going to do it. Like that is what it really takes to make something happen. Your dream, here's your dream. And if you're not like pushing it, your dream is always just kind of, you're like, oh, I wish I was doing this, but I'm going to just continue to do this. No, you have to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to make yourself vulnerable. You have to put yourself out there in ways that to some might be like too much or whatever. But always remember that it doesn't really matter what other people think about how you're doing things. It's that you're happy with the way that you're doing things. And I can see that you've been really like enjoying this. This is something that you're passionate about. And I think that, the sky's the limit for those kinds of things when you have dreams. That's all I got to say about that.
That's true. I managed to improve from almost 1,000 followers on Instagram to 1,400 in 2 months.
That's
So
good.
that's
That's good.
that's really good. Yeah. I'm not a musician.
Especially, yeah,
I'm not a hot girl, so that's pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah. You don't got. I mean, I was actually, I was looking at Instagram this morning at some of the people that have some of these women, and there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not. Again, I don't knock anything, but I was wondering. I was like, man. I mean, there was like this picture you just fucking spread with fucking. You know what I mean? It's like holy shit. I'm glad I don't have a daughter because I'd have a fucking nervous breakdown if I was the father. Being a dad, I
Yes.
just want I just want like perfection, I'm like I strive to like make sure my son is top shelf, a good dude, and doesn't have to like do stuff like that for popularity. He'll be popular on his own for being a good person. And again, this isn't reflecting upon what people do because there's a reason that stuff it does bring people happiness. So again, I'm not knocking it, but this was the A and B comparison. I was like, I wonder what people would thought if I got on the HAUNT page and started spreading my legs with some tidy whities on and being like, have my nipple hanging out and being like looking great this morning wearing my fucking lingerie. Oh my god, dude.
Woke up like
I
this.
mean, nobody wants to see that. Like, it's like, how the fuck am I supposed to compete with that? Women want to be you, guys want to have sex with you. It's just not, it just doesn't always go that way for us. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, I'm not some like sex symbol at all. I'm like a fucking married dad, dude, I wear sweatpants all day long, and I just don't have that. I don't have that shtick. So you do have to find ways to fucking make, sometimes it's a slow build, but I think 400 new followers in a couple months is significant. And I just met you not that long ago. So just to see that growth in that small amount of time is something to be proud of. Without showing off your vagina. You didn't show anybody your vagina. No one saw
I
your
could not
nobody
show
saw your
off my
titties.
vagina if I wanted to, because I don't have one.
That's exactly. It's what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, it was. I think it was October, November last year. You were in Oberhausen, and I saw you with my brother.
Yep.
And that was my first approach to, okay, I will meet band people and talk to them and make pictures. And I was fucking nervous that day. And I had the wrong shoes with me. They were too heavy and they did hurt like hell. And whoa, there was a really fucked up way to start the evening. But that concert, that gig was so amazing.
Yeah.
You, Screamer, and Kenneth, and Cindy. Cindy is really great, and yeah.
Yeah. I think that was a really good tour, and I wish Tanith had been on all the shows, but I love Screamer. They're a really great band, and I hopefully I was really nice to you. I hope that I made it at least simple to like come up to me.
I was a bit, yeah, I was nervous. I was nervous to approach you and the guys from the other bands, and you were a bit distant, but
I
I think
was.
before before the
Uh,
concert. But I
uh,
think that's another thing. So after the gig, you were sitting at the bar and talking with someone and said hi again, and you were more like, okay, the
Now's the time. Well,
yeah,
before a gig, sometimes I don't like to be over chatty, so I don't lose because I get to go to bed at night and rest. But before the gig, if I'm talking, I'm getting because I get all excited and shit about talking. I'll start, it's just I can't stop. And so sometimes beforehand, I try to keep it a little bit more on the chill side to keep, I got to go up there and scream basically for sweat profusely. And oh God, it's a nightmare for me, man. I might be one of the sweatiest dudes I've ever seen on tour. Like usually it's the drummer. The drummer can like wring out all their clothes. But dude, I have like when I'm done, everything, my pants are soaked. And I think it's because playing guitar and singing at the same time and actually running around on the stage really takes a lot of energy. A lot.
you move a lot. I have to admit, I saw bands where movement was not happening at all. It was just like,
I can't stay still. I just can't. It's impossible. You put me in front of a microphone in front of a bunch of people, I would rather run around making mistakes and just being like sloppy than be there and be like, I will give you perfect performance. I will make no mistake. I will only move my head when coordinated heavy metal movement necessary. You know what I mean? That was it right there. They do their thing and then it's like, all right, time to whip my hair back. What? And then they're back. But me, it's just this fucking the whole time I'm just fucking going.
I did some great photos of that night. There were great pictures of you and the guys, and very great lighting. I can say that. Um, I have to ask some questions
Yeah,
to actually
do it.
call this an interview.
Yeah.
So one thing I always ask any band and any musician is, what is your favorite song to play?
Well, my favorite song, it's always shifting, but the one that's been kind of the most fun live for me recently, and you know, 'cause Haunt has only been around for so long. It's been Hearts on Fire, because it's like I always am able to get the crowd to participate. I always go sing with me before, you know, and I make everybody yell Hearts on Fire beforehand. And so it's just like that easy, and I'll go around and point, you know, and it's time to do the Hearts on Fire. I just, you know, I'll go around and be like, you know, like in people's faces doing it. So it's like really drilling it in their head and making it really easy for them to participate, even if they don't know your band. You're just trying, you know, you're kind of opening yourself to like having a good time, like I said, putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. You know, it's like standing in front of a bunch of people and go, all right, on the count of 3, I want you to go Hearts on Fire. What if nobody, all you get is this dwindling Hearts on Fire? You're like, come on, motherfuckers, let's hear this shit. Hearts on Fire. And then they go, Hearts on Fire. You would be so, your soul would be crushed. So it's really nice that, you know, it's starting to be this thing where it really that song has made me more comfortable in front of people and allowed me to be more me. And so for that reason alone, that's my favorite song. It's not my favorite song, but live it is, because I will always have that connection to be like, dude, this was the first song you've ever had that it's so simple and so easy to get across to people that may have never seen you before, and to get them to say 3 words. And especially in Europe, you know, like not everybody speaks English. I know most do, but I mean, I think even non-English speaking people can kind of go Hearts on Fire and not even know what it is. You know
Yes,
what I
it should be
mean?
possible.
It's seriously. I mean, I see people singing along to shit they don't even know the words. So it's you know, that's just, they're just wanting to be a part of the show and part of the experience. So that song.
My favorite is actually Mind Freeze.
Nice. Well, I mean, for me, if we're gonna talk about my favorite songs that I currently have out, that one would be really high up there. I was really, really happy with the songwriting on that one, and the riffs, the guitar riffs, super memorable. To come up with a little arpeggio riff that you've never heard anywhere before. That riff in the beginning, you ain't gonna hear that anywhere. That's fucking Haunt all day. So I was really happy to be able to bring something that I felt was original, but yet familiar to people, and in a way that is also slow, because that's another thing I think a lot of heavy metal bands have uncomfortable. They get uncomfortable with slow songs. Everything has to be fast. Everything needs to, you know, it's going 1,000,000 miles per hour. But to be able to take it down and strip it down to do ba do ba do ba do ba, there's something there that really feels good. And I like to play that song live a lot. It's one of my favorites. The song in general is one of my favorites. But again, the energy live, it doesn't have that same energy as Hearts on Fire, but it's deeper and more mysterious.
I know why most bands like to play faster. It's as a writer, I realize that there are bands out there that really play phenomenal, but they lack the feeling for great melodies.
Yeah.
And that's not the case with Haunt. You always have great melodies and great guitar riffs and great licks and hooks and everything. And that's the reason why you can say, okay, I will tune it down. I will play a bit less fast.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think that sometimes it's a matter of there's these like, I feel in life you have to make yourself uncomfortable as much as possible, especially in music, because when you get real comfortable with something, you start just kind of gravitating towards doing only that. And we see this with tons of bands. It's really hard to grow. And it's even harder to grow when your output is as much as mine. I could put out fucking albums left. I mean, I'm not even doing half of what I think my potential is as far as material. I just don't like having a like the big problem that I've had is, trying to consolidate all the music into one thing. I only need to work on these 8 because for me, 8 songs at one time is a lot to work on, and I do it alone, as you know. Like basically, it's a solo band in a sense. I'm like Bruce Springsteen or one of those types where it's like I have a live band, but you don't work together in that way. I work in the studio exclusively with myself to come up with everything, to come up with the ideas, write the lyrics, get all that stuff done. I don't like distraction. When people are around me, it's too distracting to hear 3 people trying to do something at the same time. And bands that I did collaborate in my earlier years were epic failures. And so when you fail enough and you get old enough, you start to go, okay, this formula of things is not working. And so anyway, it was I feel that when I put myself in an uncomfortable situation with the song, my newest record that's coming out, Beautiful Distraction, will be the most uncomfortable I've been because I'm actually releasing a song on it that I hated. And I don't know if you recall, but like it was in about March. I was going on Facebook Live, right as the pandemic was starting and shutdowns were happening. I went on live and I was like, I'm going to do a record this year. I got these songs that I hate that I'm going to let you guys listen to. And you tell me which ones are keepers and which ones just go in the garbage forever. Obviously, none of them went in the garbage. So I had to stop because I did like 3. And I was like, okay, if we keep this on, it's just going to be like, I'm going to have like all this stuff that I have to work on that I personally moved away from. So, so there's 3 songs on the newest record, Beautiful Distraction, that I had in the throwaway pile that I maybe had planned to release maybe on a B-side one day or just some random EP or something. You need a song, right? You're like, here. It wasn't your focus. I don't look at things. I usually look at an album as like, it's going to have like 2 or 3 of my favorite songs that I have and the rest are maybe good. I have to put them out there to see what other people think. You know what I mean? You don't always know what your best stuff is. It's just the way it is.
Am I
And
crazy?
what's that?
It's like you ask yourself, am I crazy to discard these songs? And that's the
Yes.
reason you ask
Yes.
people to
It's
reevaluate.
like, well, there's a value to it to people. I mean, imagine if Metallica or any of those bands that people worship, imagine if they had the ability just to record even just demos that were like good quality that they feel like they could put out. Imagine how many songs they might have had that you're like, maybe you don't like new Metallica, but they had like 20 albums in the 80s. Because I personally didn't really love Metallica's Load. I'm just not. It was kind of the end for me. It was just kind of like, okay, you cut your hair, you got rid of guitar solos. I don't know what I really feel about this. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, we all felt that way in the 90s.
yeah, it was like the worst thing. I felt like heavy metal died when Load, and even though Megadeth's Euthanasia wasn't that bad, I still didn't. I mean, in comparison to Countdown to Extinction, it was garbage. It was crap. And they all tried to like change their look, which I was like, you know, it's okay to like change stuff here and there, but just, you know, you got to be yourself. But when you see this drastic change out of nowhere of people, it's like, oh, who are you even? You know, like to me, it's like you couldn't get me to cut my fucking hair off. Like it's just, it ain't happening, and it's not gonna happen for some marketing or any of that. It's like I like having my hair long. That's who I am, and I'm gonna be this person for a long time. I've had long hair for a long time, dude. Long time. So I don't know any other way. So like when I saw that they cut their hair, and then I saw also that they were like wearing more fancy designer clothes, I was just like, okay, you guys, you don't have it anymore. You're not rough enough anymore. You lost it. You got to have a little dirt on there. You got to have some shit.
That was some serious identity crisis, I think. But I think the reason that happened was they started out so young and they became so popular and so famous in
Yeah.
such a short period of time that they didn't have time to become adult people. So they
Yeah.
really didn't know who they were, and because of that, they had to do this evolution in front of the whole world. And
Yes.
yeah, that was
Yes.
shitty for most parts.
And you know what? Again, it's like maybe we have the wrong mindset and we're going, well, Metallica was tired of that and they were trying to be uncomfortable. You remember what I was telling you, being like uncomfortable? Well, maybe that was them going, all right, we're going to make ourselves uncomfortable to try to like fit in where we feel like we fit in. Who knows? I mean, we don't know these things. Next question. I know it's an
Next
interview, right?
question, yeah.
Yeah.
Normally, I would ask you what your future goals are, but I know that your future goals, or I assume your future goals are to write as many records as you possibly can in the next 400 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of like my goals they shift a lot. My goal right now is to like my personal goals are to do another big studio upgrade pretty soon, because you know only way to get bigger and badder and be way fucking tighter is to start building that collection of gear. And it's really expensive. I mean, probably the reason that most people don't dive into it, because you know, say a guitar player, you got to buy your rig, right? And I have an Ingle half stack right here that I think retails for about $4,000. So
Oh,
that's just the amp. Then you have to have the guitars. You got to have at least 2 guitars to be in a live band. Those, if they're going to be even decent caliber, $700 to $1,000. Then your cables. Then you have to decide on your pedal board and all your pedals. All these things start to be very expensive. And unless you're a true fucking like audio nerd and you have to be experimental like myself, you have to buy all these preamps for your microphones, and they cost $1,000 a piece and up, some of them. And you're like, so for me, part of that personal goal is a nice studio upgrade after this next record. I'm gonna invest one more time. I'm starting to hit a wall on how much better I could get, because I've already invested in all the top microphones you could really get. They're really good quality, all name brand, all used in the industry, very, very high caliber microphones. The only place that I've been really lacking there a little bit is I have a little bit more, like my preamps are good. They're not like they're shitty. I'm not using just a interface preamp. I have individual preamps for every microphone that are rack, and they have their own power transformer, so they all have a different color than just all having the same color. Um, so a personal goal would be to really get the studio upgraded, and then also I'm really trying to I started my own label to release my own music, and that's a big undertaking on any level because, yeah, granted, if your band was like, you just play locally and you only have to make 100, you sell maybe 100 CDs a year or whatever, you're going to be fine. You can have your own label or whatever, but we're talking about Haunt, which has started to have kind of a global there's some movement. I'm growing every day. Every day I look at, like you say, you look at, you grow 400 people. Well, I'm looking at mine just constantly. Like this year, I almost hit 1 million streams on Spotify. I hate Spotify, but I go, wow, like
Yeah, that's
that's.
still pretty great.
I was
Uh,
just like, I had 950,000, and I was just like, that's a lot of streams for a guy from Fresno. I might be a record. I'm not kidding you. I might be the only dude in Fresno to have independently reached that kind of mark. And I'm not saying that that's something to brag about, but what I'm saying is like that kind of growth and that kind of expectation. I also have to have new manufacturing expectations, overseeing what everything looks like, my merch looks like, how everything is designed. I have to be really fucking in touch with that. And I'm starting to get to a point where I'm still going to do exactly what I said for the day one. Every year you will get an album and an EP. This year was different because I recorded Mind Freeze in 2019. It would have come out in 2019 had I, you know, did it the way things I would do now. I was working with Shadow Kingdom then. They're like, let's do January. But I got home and I already had music. So flashback, Triumph is just re-recorded, even though I recorded an album technically. It wasn't like I took 8 previous songs and just remixed them and remastered them and made a compilation CD. It's full new recordings. Completely. They're different. They're tuned differently. I tuned C standard for the last couple years now. So my earlier albums like Luminous, Burst in a Flame, and some of Icarus, I discovered the C standard tuning during Icarus, and I never after that I never went back. It was all C standard now. But anyway, you know, getting this label kind of more functional is a big deal. It really is. I can't really, it's hard for me when I say like I have my own label. I feel like that's like kind of like hitting real record labels in the nuts. Cause I'm like, I am not, I'm nowhere at the near at their level. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's people that are really doing it, and here's me. Because my personal connection to having a label is again to remove the middleman, but me being the middleman, and me being in charge of everything. Therefore, I'm the CEO of Haunt. Therefore, I can make a living off Haunt and continue to do this full time instead of having to have a day job. I had a day job for fucking ever. I can't until I started really doing things independently. I was still having to clock in and do a work day and then somehow have enough energy to come in here and do all this and try to get better. It's hard. So, one album, one EP a year from Haunt is basically that is my personal goal until I'm done. Until I'm just like, no more, which who knows? It could be 5 years, it could be 6 years. There's no telling with me. I think I'm going to end up doing Haunt the rest of my life because when I started Haunt, I didn't pigeonhole myself into doing one thing. So I'll be able to change Haunt as I change, which is not going to be, it's not going to be fucking Metallica change. It's just going to be things like when I want to do them, like when I wanted to add synth to the music, it was like it was a courageous move for me because I knew we weren't going to be able to do it live. And I was like, this is going to be like me putting an element in that is never going to be there. I want it to be there. You don't know how hard it is to find a fucking keyboard player. That's a goal for next year too. find a keyboard player and actually keep them in my band somehow. But really, to really take church recordings and try to take it to a next tier of having, you know, having the working pieces of a label that I need, which is, I've realized I need to do a little bit of PR. I did it myself on this last one, and it did all right. It did all right, but then I saw how much High Roller was doing for me, who I licensed a one pressing to, and I see all the stuff that his guys throwing at me, and I'm like, damn, I'm fucking up. I need to find somebody I like. I do need a PR person to reach out, because there's just no way, there's just not enough time for me to actually really do. How could I write all this stuff, play on all these people's albums, mix it, master it, oversee the design, oversee the manufacturing, and be the guy that ships it out, and then have all these other jobs, PR, like fuck. So the personal goal of 2021 is to bring it up a level and find some people that I'm comfortable working with. I like what they do. They hear me. They hear my thoughts. And so it's not always going to be all about albums and how much I could write and stuff, because I'm already okay where I'm at. I did Burst into Flame, and it did so well for me. The fact that like Gimme Radio gave me Album of the Year. I don't know if I'll ever get to that level again. I really don't. I don't know if I think it's it's one of those magical debut things. It's like, here I am, and here's my first full length, and it did well. So, and that was all through underground stuff. The fact that Rolling Stone got a hold of it and gave me number 14 out of their it's not like Billboard chart or anything, but their personal favorites of, you know, of that year. To be able to get to those kind of tiers, it might be hard for me in the future. So the fact that I kind of have that already done, and it's always will live there, I could always be proud of it. I could take some step backs and figure out some of these other things that need to be figured out, you know, in order for me to do this, and also to do other bands and put out their records and teach them how to be independent. I'd like to see everybody kind of do their own thing, because if we are going to have the internet and social media, we need to be using it at its full potential instead of arguing politics with people all day, and use it for its better potential. Be like, hey, here's this really cool productive thing that I do. I write music at my house. I record it by myself. I get it manufactured and I sell it, but I mainly do it on the internet. So I want to, you know, make my reach on the internet as prominent as possible, and be like, hey, instead of worrying about this bullshit today, here's my record. You could stream it. If you want to support the continuation of it, you could buy a t-shirt, or you could buy a record, because it keeps me in the studio. It keeps me from having to go back to having a job.
I have a question. I think the audience, if there is one for my stuff, would really love that. Do you have any new riffs you might want to show me?
Yeah, sure. Why not? You want to hear something off the new album, or do you want to hear like brand new riffs?
Oh, that's a tough question. I would say, yeah, brand new.
Brand new?
Brand new.
All right. I gotta open something up. So this next record that I'm working on, so you could have some like really early insight. I mean, because I haven't even put out my next album, Beautiful Distraction, yet. So this, what I'm working on right now, will probably see a release in, who knows, I might release it next year. It really depends on how fast things go for me. I have a lot to do. This is early. So this is kind of how it all starts. What I did with this specific record, COVID's been really weird in the case that I've been doing a lot of walking, which is something I usually don't do. So when I walk with my family now, I've been bringing my acoustic guitar with me. So you see me on, like, it'd be hella funny in Germany because you'd see me walking down the street with my son and my wife, and I got an acoustic guitar and I'm playing heavy metal, you know, and looking like me. It's really weird. I bet my neighbors and everybody in the block, they're like, fucking guy, who do you think he is? Fucking Elvis walking around with a guitar. But anyway, I've been writing most of my new stuff. I've been writing acoustically and then bringing it into the studio and turning it into an electric song. So again, an uncomfortable area, I think, for anybody in heavy metal would be to write the heavy metal song on acoustic, right? I mean, can you imagine Behemoth playing their riffs on an acoustic and do it? And there's no way. It just doesn't have, there's a lot of music can't be written like that. So it was important for me to try to have my sound still, but be like, you know what, I could do some different things. What's a new approach? So I'm pulling it up right now. I have to have everything load because this is like freshly recorded. Mind you, not mixed. There's no vocals yet either. You're just gonna hear some guitar licks and stuff, but the licks are good. And we're almost there. It's a big file. When I do my recordings these days, it's like they'll have, instead of having like 30 folders, which was starting to get too much for me, I just have one really big song. It's like an hour. All right, so let me get this one started. Mind you, I haven't listened to this since I've written it, so it's nerve-wracking because I'm like, I hope it sounds good. But this song, I call it Windows of Your Heart. And really trying to capture some like more positive, uplifting approach to it. So anyway, here we go.
Now I see the Skype problems. And I hear the Skype problems.
Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
You had some issues with sound and visuals, but now you're
Oh,
back.
it went out on you?
Yeah, I heard the first I think minute or yeah 90 seconds, and then there was a lot of static and
Oh, well
yeah.
then
But
that's you'll have to edit it.
but
One of
I
those
have to
things.
say,
Please stand by. Technical difficulty.
but I
But
have to say,
anyway, you're back. I hope you got enough to just. I mean, it's an instrumental. It's a rough demo, so it's like that's kind of its infancy, and that's not even half of what I have.
no, that was great. That was
I
great.
have like
It's really
20. I probably have 20 different style of songs right now. They vary from like thrashy beats to like more, dance beats to pop rock beats. It's pretty broad spectrum. And that's kind of where I see myself anyways, is kind of having a little bit of everything. There's been a couple critics that have really thrown some hatred at my lack of wanting to stick to one thing because they like that one thing more than the other. Um, so it's kind of one of those weird things where it's like some people would like me to stay in the kind of how Flashback and Mind Freeze are, like just straight rock kind of beats. And then there's these vast people that like my fast songs more than my slow. So I'm not trying to please anybody but myself. So it's more about like, okay, I need to get this out because there's that part of me I like fast, like we were saying earlier. But then I like the mystery of slow and being uncomfortable of like, okay, this isn't gonna have as much energy. This is gonna have a different feel. So that's kind of where I'm trying to get to put myself into some areas of like even to some of the soloing it's changing a lot. There's some really there's going to be some big changes that people are going to see in Haunt that I should just tell you right now. So John left. He's no longer in Haunt. He has taken a new job and can't do touring anymore. So he will no longer be with me. And I also fired our drummer, it's been a nightmare between he and I for a while. And I needed somebody that was, more tight with me, had a better friendship. And so I brought Beastmaker's drummer back, Andy, uh, because I really like, you're only as tight as your live unit. And I needed my friends to be around me to hold me up. And when people are bringing you down, you got to kind of get rid of them. And that's kind of what happened with Wolfie. Is not a good friend for me. I wished otherwise. I tried working with him. I tried working things out with him, but we could never seem to get there. And it met its end this year, where I was like, well, here's COVID, no touring. It's time I need to recalibrate. I had already known that I knew in our last European tour, John was already talking about leaving the band anyway and pursuing his life of having a family and doing things that he wants to do. So nothing negative on the end of John leaving, because it actually leaves me really sad because he's been my tour partner for 6 years. I've been to Europe 4 times with him. I've been all over the world with him. So I'm really sad to see John go. So the live band is changing. So I'm bringing in, a friend of mine that has been my best friend for a very long time. Andy has been part of Haunt, even not being in the band, because he's helped me mix and master quite a few of the records, and has been there to guide me through a lot of stuff, personal stuff that I had to deal with in being a leader of a band and the main person operating it. It has its own set of challenges, because you got to remember that Beastmaker was my band before Haunt, and Beastmaker was more of the traditional band setting. We got together as just jamming, and a band happened. Whereas Haunt, I was just like writing music that Beastmaker didn't want to do. And I also just was getting a little bit fed up with the record label that we were with, because I wanted to do things my way and they didn't really see it that way. I wanted to be able to put out a record every year, and they are like, "Oh, just let it breathe." And I'm like, "No, I have 60 songs. We go another year, I'm gonna have a 90. And then how do I choose from 90 songs?" So I put them all out at one time last in 2018 or 2019. Put like 10 Beastmaker EPs out, but Haunt just is. I had to put a band together. I was getting offers. So when I did Burst in a Flame, I didn't have the band. There's when Burst in a Flame was being recorded, I had no band. So already I had already started this process of, all right. So I found somebody and I put his picture on band, and I failed. I think that there was an experimentation of how to actually do this. I shouldn't have done that, because he ended up being somebody that I would never in a million years work with that guy again. Have I know now what I know now? It was one of the worst experiences. Even though you see me smoking weed, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, and I don't really like that kind of shit in my band. Feel me? So like in Haunt, it's like you could have a good time, but if you're gonna be like wasted and playing, we're never gonna be on the same page. Because for me, I'm like, I don't need that to have fun when I'm playing. You feel me? So I think of that as like it hinders you from being your best self. Because everybody knows, like, when you're drunk, you're not gonna be as on point and fine tuned. I mean, is an Olympic runner gonna run that shit drunk?
Nope.
Fuck no. So, um, I didn't really know about that kind of stuff. So that was my first thing that happened. That was like, but anyway, you're getting more of a biography now than an interview. But I don't know if there's anything else you would like to ask, because I mean, I could give you there's so much to it, because this situation doesn't generally happen for most people, where you have a band that's starting to see some. I mean, we had just got off tour with Zach Wild, Beastmaker had, and a pretty successful European tour with the band Stone Jesus, who packs places. I mean, every night we were performing in front of big crowds, and it seemed like Beastmaker was doing okay. So it's rare that you go from one thing to having another project that actually your side project catapults you beyond what your actual project did. I had to make a decision, and the decision was to no longer do Beastmaker. And therefore, Andy, I tried to bring in at Haunt at first, and he didn't want to do it. And but he only didn't want to do it because he just was not comfortable being the drummer that I needed him to be. And he kind of took that as a personal mission to get there, I think, and really he's pushed himself as a drummer over the last couple years and as a musician. And having him in his level of dedication to his instrument and his professionalism to his instrument and to his years of understanding of me, because he's known me the longest. We've had the most failures together. We failed in like 5 bands together before Beastmaker. So we've been through a lot of stuff together, and I'm really happy to have him with me, even though it sucks, because I did, it's not that I didn't enjoy my time with Wolfie. It was just, we're just way too different of people, and our approach on life is entirely different on top of that. So there was just too much. It's like we're kind of magnetic. We're as close as we could get, but there's always going to be this push because our personalities are just don't really click. And I didn't know that. You don't know these things when you have to put a band together because you have to put a band together. I chose people that were available. Not as much as like I didn't audition people and work through things to see if these are the people that I'm going to work with for the rest of my life. As even with John, somebody I thought I played music for with years. It seems 6 years with John, it was time for him to even depart. You know what I mean? Who knows? You know what I mean? You don't know how long these relationships are going to last. So, fortunately for Haunt, the music doesn't change because I'm the sole writer. That's the good thing about a solo project, is it doesn't really affect it musically as much as like losing a singer, right? Like a band loses its voice, that's crippling. It's like, what are you gonna do? You know? But luckily for me, I'm the guy that not only sings, I write the drums, play the drums, I write the bass lines, and I write the guitar. So, and I write the keyboards, and I put together the music. So nothing changes in that sense, but it's gonna always, I feel like this is a problem I'm gonna have. It's gonna be like Megadeth, where I might have a revolving door of musicians over the years because of how Haunt operates. It's not, I don't have time to be a jam band. I don't party. I don't get together to jam, to party. So that's kind of another thing that's like different about working with me. It's not like, all right, we're going to Trevor's to like, we're gonna drink some beers and we're gonna write some shit and have a good time. Because I'm a fucking family guy. I got a wife and a son. So that kind of shit it's not part of my world. Anyway, some perspective maybe you didn't have, and some news, some bad news, but also I'm trying to say it's good because I'm bringing in one of my closest friends that I've ever had in my life that has been part of Haunt behind the scenes and behind me personally. He's made me who I am to this day for how long we've been playing together and pushing our ideas together and trying to make something that works. It was really hard for me these last 2 years not having him on the road with me, because he's the only guy, Andy, the drummer of Haunt now, he was the only guy. He's up at 6 o'clock when I am, and we have breakfast and we walk and we'll do some stretching and shit and get ourselves ready to go. We're ready to go for the day. We don't, and I think just having that breakfast together on tour instead of me just like eating breakfast alone at the hotel and having that companion, that I was really longing for that, because I had been getting up early. I don't drink, so it doesn't, I don't like dudes playing drunk in my live band. They usually drink after. So, I don't really like having, like, they require more sleep than I do because they've been drinking the night before. And drinking kind of gets you into your, even if you do wake up at 6, you're kind of groggy. But I wake up at 6 and I'm like, I'm ready to fucking go. I'm ready to start driving. So it's nice to have that companion that kind of has that same mentality.
So I got an idea, Trevor.
Yeah.
It goes as following. We will cut this in two, and we will talk again when Beautiful Distractions is out.
Yeah.
And make a part 2 of this interview. And I can spoiler one thing. We have to talk about skating.
All right.
I saw a skating video of you and I have questions, but that's questions I will ask next time, because I'm hungry and I have to attend my girlfriend.
I feel you. It's been a long talk, and I'm a long talker. You get me on the phone, good luck getting me off. I'll give you my life story.
Yeah, I realized.
Right, let me know. We'll end it here, and we'll pick up later.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
It was a pleasure.
Pleasure, my friend. Happy holidays and take care.
Yeah, stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.